Hello and welcome. I'm Jonathan Ananda for the New Indian Express, and this is Business Unboxed, where we take the hottest topics from the world of money and break them down for you, piece by piece. Last week, we decoded LPG subsidies and that disappearing act, and the impact this had on kitchens across India. This time around, we're just stepping a few feet away to the driveway and the mainly empty fuel tanks of India's millions of automobiles. By now, it's not news that fuel prices are breaking records almost daily because the union government and state governments to a lesser extent increased fuel taxes when oil prices crashed last year. But while oil has now recovered, these hikes have not been reversed. This has made an already tough situation even tougher. But this is not new, nor is it news to most people. So instead, what we will attempt today is a breakdown of a far deeper problem and a story that we hope will give you a clearer picture of where we stand right now and how we got here. And this is Act 1. A modern economy needs many things to function, but few are as important as a transport system. Because an economy needs goods and people to move around, from mines to factories, from factories to markets, from markets to homes, and from homes to offices and shops. A good analogy would be to think of the economy as a living animal, in which case the transport fleet is the all-important circulatory system, because it moves around all the stuff that a body needs to keep itself alive, healthy, and functioning. And despite the recent advances made in electric vehicle technology, it is oil and the petrol and diesel we make from it that drives almost every vehicle on our roads today. India's problem is that we just don't have enough of it. In general, we import nearly 80% of our oil requirements, and because we are a negligible producer and the oil market is dominated by the OPEC cartel, India just does not have enough heft to dictate which direction oil prices take. A decade ago, for example, this price was over $120 a barrel. Back then, with inflation close to 10%, the government was hard-pressed to keep fuel prices low. The result was heavy annual expenditures and subsidies. While petrol subsidies were stopped in 2010, diesel subsidies remained, peaking at around 92,000 crore in 2012-2013. And while union and state governments levied taxes on fuel, they were kept relatively low. Now, good times may not last, but that just means bad times don't last either. And in 2014, India received a boon that seemed straight from the gods, a windfall reward. Breakthrough advances in shale technology saw crude oil production from the United States surge that year, and OPEC and its de facto leader Saudi Arabia decided not to cut production to prop up prices, because that would mean losing more market share to the United States. And so, an oversupplied oil market crashed, and in a matter of months, India's fiscal math had changed. The oil price crash had an immediate impact on petrol and diesel prices, and through 2014 and 2015, fuel rates fell. But governments did not want to miss out on this suddenly freed up pool of cash, so they started dipping in too. In October 2014, the union government stopped subsidies for diesel, and between November 2014 and January 2016, it hiked excise duties on fuel 9 times. These taxes were reduced a little in 2017 and 2018, but hiked again in 2019. And the centre wasn't alone in this, because state governments hiked sales taxes on fuels too, though to a lesser degree. The result was a massive increase in fuel tax collections and a gradual increase in fuel prices. And this higher tax revenue went a long way towards cushioning government revenues and sustaining expenditure during an era of stuttering GDP growth. So much so that the union government even rolled out a massive corporate tax cut in September 2019 in an attempt to boost this growth. But like we already saw, times change, and this bout of fortune came with an expiration date. Even before the pandemic broke out in early 2020, oil prices were showing signs of weakening even further. A simmering price war between Russia and Saudi Arabia threatened the larger OPEC Plus alliance of oil exporters, and oil demand was starting to stall. By the time April came around, global lockdowns had pulled the bottom out of the oil market, and it crashed again. And with almost the entire economy down and staring at a massive shortfall in taxes, the union government and state governments turned to fuel again. Between March and May 2020, central excise duties were raised by Rs 13 per litre for petrol and Rs 16 for diesel. Most state governments also made similar but smaller hikes. And that is how the trap was sprung. Because while the government of India's reliance on fuel taxes has been growing steadily since 2014, in FY21 it exploded to 20% of its gross tax revenue. One reason for this was that fuel tax collections nearly doubled due to the price hikes. But other tax collections also saw a parallel decline due to both the pandemic and 2019's corporate tax cut. For India, a country that imports 80% of its oil requirements but doesn't really have much power to set oil prices, being overly reliant on fuel taxes was always a precarious position to be in. Because a rise in fuel prices means a rise in transport costs, and that, in turn, means an increase in the cost of every commodity or service that requires transportation, eventually leading to out-of-control inflation. And so, now that the recovery in the global economy is pushing oil prices up, the government is stuck between two extremely unpalatable choices. On the one hand, it could keep taxes exactly where they are and hope that oil prices fall or remain static. But that would be a risky gamble because analysts are already predicting that oil will hit $100 a barrel by 2022. With petrol and diesel prices already above ₹100 a litre, a surge in crude oil prices could lead to the reappearance of double-digit inflation. On the other hand, the government could slash taxes a little, but analysts suggest that a ₹5 per litre cut would lead to a revenue loss of 53,000 crore this fiscal year. And so, at the end of Act 3, that is where we are right now, with the final act yet to play out. The best case scenario for India right now would be another unexpected fall in oil prices, or a faster than expected recovery in other tax collections. But barring these unlikely scenarios, India stands on a knife edge. On one side is a duty cut and a tax shortage when the economy requires massive infusions of cash to stimulate recovery. On the other hand is even higher fuel prices and out of control inflation. If you liked what you saw and you would like us to do more such videos, please hit like and share widely. And until next time, goodbye.